The iron gate should have opened to an empty mansion. Instead, Elara Nightshade found herself staring into 8 pairs of glowing eyes, each one burning with territorial fury from behind shattered windows. The lawyer had said nothing about children already living in her inheritance, children who clearly had no intention of leaving. Elara's rental car crunched to a stop on the gravel driveway of Silvermoon Manor, perched high in the Colorado Rockies. Power setting. The setting sun cast long shadows across the weathered stone facade, making the 3-story mansion look more like a fortress than a home. She checked the address on her phone again, then the brass numbers on the gate. Apostles. This was it. The property she'd inherited from a great-aunt she'd never even known existed. Supposed to be vacant, she muttered, grabbing her overnight bag and the folder of legal documents from the passenger seat. The key felt heavy in her hand, ornate and old-fashioned, nothing like the modern keys she was used to. The front door swung open before she could insert it. A boy stood in the doorway, maybe 15 or 16, with ink-black hair that fell across eyes the color of molten silver. Everything about him radiated barely controlled aggression. The tense set of his shoulders, the way his fingers gripped the doorframe hard enough to leave marks in the wood. "You need to leave." His voice carried an edge, sharper than broken glass. "Now." Elara's fingers tightened on her bag strap. She'd worked as a social worker in Chicago for 5 years, had faced down angry teenagers before, but something about this boy made every instinct scream danger. "I'm Elara Nightshade." She kept her voice calm, professional. "I believe there's been some misunderstanding. I own this property now." The boy's laugh was harsh, humorless. "Nobody owns Silvermoon. Nobody owns us." Movement in the shadows behind him caught her attention. More children emerged from the manor's depths like ghosts, materializing from smoke. 7 more, ranging from what looked like a tiny boy, of maybe 5 to teenagers close to the first boy's age. All of them shared the same otherworldly beauty, the same silver eyes that seemed to glow in the fading light, the same coiled tension that spoke of prey animals ready to bolt, or predators ready to strike. "Kieran," a girl's voice whispered. The speaker looked about 12, with white blonde hair braided down her back. "She smells like—" "I know what she smells like, Luna." Kieran cut her off sharply. The children formed a protective semicircle behind him, the older ones shielding the younger. Their clothes were clean but worn, patched in places with neat, careful stitches. Despite the mansion's obvious grandeur, these children looked like they'd been taking care of themselves for a very long time. "Look," Elara said, her mind racing. "I don't know what's going on here, but we can figure this out. Are you all siblings? Where are your parents?" The temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. The smallest child, a boy with curls so pale they were almost white, pressed closer to an older girl's leg. "We don't need parents." Kieran's voice could have frozen flame. "We don't need anyone. Silvermoon is ours, has been for 2 years. Your piece of paper changes nothing." 2 years. Elara's heart clenched. 8 children, living alone in this remote mansion for 2 years. No adults, no supervision, no one to care for them except each other. "I'm not here to hurt you," she said gently. "Or to throw you out. But legally, quote, your laws mean nothing here." Kieran stepped forward. And Elara caught something strange in the movement. Too fluid, too fast. Not quite human. The dying sunlight hit his eyes, and for just a moment, they flashed pure silver, reflective like an animal's. The other children shifted restlessly, and Elara heard something that made her blood run cold. A soft growl, coming from the throat of the 5-year-old. What had her mysterious great-aunt left her? And what exactly were these children? "You should go back to your car," Luna said, her voice carrying an odd musical quality. "Drive away. Forget you ever got that letter." "I can't do that," Elara said, though every rational part of her brain was screaming that maybe she should. 8 children with glowing eyes, inhuman movements, And the ability to growl? This wasn't what she'd signed up for when she'd accepted the inheritance. The smallest boy tugged on the older girl's shirt. "Mira," he whispered, though Elara heard it clearly despite the distance. "She smells safe? Like moonflowers." "Quiet, Ash." Mira hushed him, but Elara caught the way several of the children exchanged glances at the boy's words. "Listen." Elara tried again, setting her bag down slowly, making herself appear less threatening. "It's getting dark. I've driven 6 hours to get here." "Powers. Can we at least talk inside? I promise I'm not here to—" "No." Kieran's interruption was sharp as winter wind. "Silvermoon doesn't welcome strangers after dark. That's the rule." "Whose rule?" Silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken secrets. In the distance, Elara heard something that made her skin prickle, a long, mournful howl echoing through the mountains. The children stiffened as one, and little Ash whimpered. "Get inside," Kieran ordered the others, never taking his eyes off Elara. "Now." They obeyed instantly, melting back into the mansion's shadows. Only a girl who looked about 14 remained, her bronze skin marked with strange scars that caught the dying light. "Kieran," she said quietly, "the moon's rising. You know what happens if—" "I know, Vera." His voice gentled slightly when he spoke to her. "Take them to the safe room. I'll handle this." Vera shot Elara a look that might have been sympathy before disappearing inside. The door remained open, spilling warm golden light onto the weathered porch. But Kieran blocked the entrance like a guardian statue. "There are things in these mountains," he said, his silver eyes never leaving Elara's face. "Things that hunt at night. Things that are especially interested in this place. You'd survive maybe 10 minutes out here alone after full dark." Then let me in." "I don't trust you." "You don't know me." "Exactly." But something in his expression wavered. Another howl, closer this time, made him flinch. "You have 2 choices. Get in your car now and drive fast. Don't stop until you hit the city. Or, he studied her for a long moment, and Elara felt like she was being weighed on some invisible scale. Whatever he saw must have tipped the balance, because his shoulders dropped a fraction. "Or you follow our rules. All of them. No questions tonight. You can sleep in the morning room, it has locks on the inside. Tomorrow, when the sun's up, we talk. You try anything, hurt any of them." He didn't need to finish the threat. "I would never hurt a child," Elara said firmly. That's what she said too. The words were barely audible, more to himself than to her. Before Elara could ask who she was, Kieran stepped aside. "Morning room is down the hall, 3rd door on the left. Don't go anywhere else. Don't look for us. And whatever you hear tonight, whatever you think you hear, stay in that room." Elara grabbed her bag and stepped into Silvermoon Manor. The foyer should have been grand soaring ceilings, a crystal chandelier, marble floors, but everything was wrong. Furniture pushed against walls, deep gouges in the wood paneling, windows reinforced with what looked like steel bars painted to match the frames. This wasn't just a mansion, it was a fortress. "Thank you," she said, turning back to Kieran. But he was already moving deeper into the house, his voice carrying back to her. "Don't thank me yet. You have no idea what you've inherited." The morning room door had 3 deadbolts on the inside. As Elara secured each one, she wondered what kind of children needed locks to keep things out, or what kind of monsters made those locks necessary. Outside, another howl split the night, and somewhere in the mansion's depths, she heard the unmistakable sound of children crying. What had Great Aunt Celestine gotten her into? Elara barely slept. Every creak of the old mansion, every whisper of wind against the barricaded windows, sent her heart racing. Sometime near dawn, exhaustion finally claimed her, and she dozed fitfully in an ancient armchair that smelled of lavender and old leather. A soft knock woke her. Pale morning light filtered through the reinforced windows, painting geometric shadows across the Persian rug. Miss Nightshade? Luna's voice called through the door. Kieran says you can come out now. Elara unbolted the locks and found Luna waiting in the hallway, her white blonde hair catching the sunlight like spun silver. In daylight, the girl looked almost normal if you ignored the unusual brightness of her eyes and the way she moved with predatory grace. I'm supposed to take you to the kitchen, Luna said, studying Elara with the intensity of a child trying to solve a puzzle. Ash made pancakes. He wanted to share. The kitchen was a contradiction. Professional-grade appliances in a space that looked like it had seen better days. 7 children sat around a massive wooden table, leaving 2 empty chairs. Ash stood on a step stool at the stove, carefully flipping pancakes under Vera's watchful eye. She stayed. One of the twins, a boy with copper skin and silver eyes, whispered to his identical sister, "Power. Told you she would," the girl whispered back. "She has the mark." "Shut up, Sage," Kieran's voice came from the doorway. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, but his defensive posture from last night had softened slightly. Both of you, Raven. Both of you, Raven." He took the empty chair at the head of the table, gesturing for Elara to sit. She did, accepting a plate of surprisingly perfect pancakes from a beaming Ash. "You cook?" she asked the little boy gently. "Someone has to," he said proudly. "Kieran burns everything. Power." A few of the children snickered, and Elara caught the ghost of a smile on Kieran's face before he schooled his expression. "We need to talk," he said. "About Silvermoon. About why you can't stay. About—" "I'm listening." Kieran glanced at the younger children. "Luna, take the little ones to the playroom." "But we want to hear," Raven protested. "Raven," Mira said softly, and the girl subsided. The 4 youngest trooped out, though Elara noticed they kept glancing back. 2 years ago. Kieran began once they were gone. Our guardian brought us here. Said it would be safe, that the mountain would protect us. For a few months, it was perfect. Then she left, Vera added, her scarred hands wrapped around a mug of tea. Middle of the night. No explanation. No goodbye, just gone. Gone. Celestine, Elara said quietly. "My great-aunt. She was your guardian?" The 4 remaining children exchanged looks of surprise. "You didn't know?" Mira asked. "I never even knew she existed until the lawyer contacted me about the inheritance," Elara admitted. "My family doesn't. We don't talk about certain relatives." "The ones with gifts," Kieran said. "It wasn't a question." Elara's breath caught. "How did you—" "You wouldn't have been able to find Silvermoon if you didn't have the blood," he said simply. "The manor only reveals itself to those who belong." "But I don't have any gifts." Even as she said it, Elara thought of all the times she'd known things she shouldn't. The way she could always tell when someone was lying. How animals trusted her instantly. Small things she'd explained away her whole life. "Not yet," Vera said quietly. "But being here will change that. Silvermoon awakens what's sleeping in the bloodline." Before Elara could process that, the kitchen door slammed open. A wolf burst through, massive, midnight black, with eyes like molten gold. It skidded to a halt, those intelligent eyes fixed on Elara with laser focus. The children didn't panic. If anything, they relaxed. "Jaxon," Kieran said calmly. "She inherited the manor. She has the right to—" The wolf's form shimmered, and suddenly a man stood there, tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of dangerous beauty that made her breath catch. His hair was dark as his wolf form, shot through with premature silver, and those golden eyes hadn't left her face. "She has the right to leave," Jaxon said, his voice rough as if unused to human speech. "Before she brings them down on us again." "Brings who?" Elara found her voice, standing to face this new threat. Jaxon moved closer, and she caught his scent, pine and rain and something wild. Her heart did something complicated in her chest. "The pack that killed your aunt," he said bluntly. The ones who come sniffing around every full moon, looking for a way past the wards. The ones who want these cubs for their sick experiments. Elara felt the blood drain from her face. Celestine was murdered? Tell her the truth, Jaxon, Mira said softly. All of it. Jackson's jaw clenched, but after a long moment, he spoke. 2 years ago, Celestine fought them off. Died protecting the boundary. Her blood renewed the wards for a time, but he gestured toward the window. They're weakening. Soon the pack will break through. And then? Elara asked, though she was afraid of the answer. Power. Then they take the children, Jaxon said simply. Just like they took all the others before them. The kitchen fell silent. These weren't just orphan children. They were the last survivors of something terrible. And Elara had just inherited the responsibility of keeping them alive. Over the next few days, Elara established a delicate routine. She didn't push, didn't demand answers to the 1,000 questions burning in her mind. Instead, she simply existed in their space, letting the children come to her on their terms. It started small. Ash appeared at her door the second morning with a tray of scrambled eggs. Because you need to eat too. Sage asked for help with a math problem from a workbook that looked years old. Raven showed her a sketch of the mountain vista, shyly asking if it was any good. You're still here, Luna observed on the 4th day, finding Elara organizing supplies in the pantry she'd driven to town that morning. Spending her own money to stock up on groceries and essentials. Where else would I be? Luna tilted her head, studying Elara with those unsettling silver eyes. Everyone else left, even the nice ones, contentious. They'd promise to help, then disappear when things got scary. Elara knelt to Luna's eye level. I don't make promises I can't keep, and I don't abandon children. That afternoon, she found Jaxon in what had once been a grand library, most of the books now stacked against windows like additional barricades. He was studying a map spread across the floor, marked with red X's and defensive positions. You're planning for a siege, Elara said. He didn't look up. I'm planning for reality. The new moon is in 8 days. That's when they'll try again. Powers. Who are they exactly? Jaxon finally met her eyes. The Crimson Fang Pack. Led by Alpha Thorne Blackwood. He collects gifted children, breaks them down, rebuilds them as weapons for his pack. And these children are the strongest he's ever encountered. Jackson's voice held a note of fierce pride. Even without proper training, even suppressing their true nature, they're more powerful than cubs 3 times their age. Elara sat across from him, careful not to disturb the map. You're not part of Blackwood's pack. Not anymore. His hand unconsciously went to his throat, where Elara noticed faint scars she'd missed before. I was his beta. Until I helped 12 cubs escape his compound 4 years ago. 8 made it here. The others. He didn't finish. You've been protecting them alone all this time? Kinda. Celestine helped when she was alive. She taught them control, gave them stability. I stayed hidden in the forest, providing protection when needed. He laughed bitterly. For all the good it's done. I can't even teach them to shift properly without risking Blackwood sensing their power. Shift? Jaxon stared at her. You really don't know, do you? What you are? What they are? Before Elara could answer, Vera appeared in the doorway. Jaxon, we have a problem. Ash is burning up with fever, and it's not normal sick. It's the change sickness. Both adults rushed to the youngest cub's room. Ash lay in his small bed, skin flushed and eyes bright with fever. But what made Elara gasp were the silver patterns spreading across his arms like living tattoos. He's too young, Jaxon muttered, checking the boy's temperature. The shift shouldn't come for years yet. It's her, Kieran said from the doorway, not accusingly but with a kind of wonder. Her presence is awakening things, just like it did with Celestine. What do we do? Elara asked, pushing down her panic. We help him through it, Vera said simply. Together, through the night, they took turns sitting with Ash. Elara found herself instinctively knowing when to cool his fever with damp cloths, when to murmur soothing words that seemed to carry more power than they should. The silver patterns on his skin pulsed and shifted, beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. "It's not usually like this," Mira explained during her shift. "The first change should be gradual, guided by pack elders. But we don't have elders, we just have each other. And now you have me," Elara said firmly. Mira studied her. "You feel it too, don't you? The pull, the moon singing in your blood." Elara couldn't deny it. Since arriving at Silvermoon, she'd felt something stirring inside her. Dreams of running through forests, the taste of wind and freedom, the overwhelming need to protect these children with a ferocity that should have frightened her. "I've never changed," Elara admitted. "My family, they suppressed it, said it was dangerous, unnatural." They were wrong. Jaxon's voice came from the doorway. He entered with a steaming mug that smelled of herbs and moonlight. "Here, wolfsbane and silver moss tea. It'll help Ash's body accept the change instead of fighting it." As Elara helped Ash sip the tea, Jaxon continued, "Your family was probably trying to protect you. Lone wolves without pack support rarely survive their first full transformation. But you're not alone now." "I'm human," Elara insisted, even as she felt the lie in her bones. "You're whatever these cubs need you to be," Jaxon said simply. "That's what being pack means." Dawn broke with Ash's fever, the silver patterns fading to leave faint marks like birthmarks on his pale skin. He opened clear eyes and smiled at Elara. "I dreamed I was running," he said wondrously. "On 4 paws, with all of you beside me. We were free." "Someday," Elara promised, smoothing his white curls. "Someday you will be." Later that morning, Kieran led her to a locked room in the mansion's east wing. "If you're staying," he said, producing an ornate key, "you need to see this." The room was Celestine's study, left exactly as she'd abandoned it. Maps covered every wall, not just of the local area, but of the entire region, marked with pack territories, safe houses, and danger zones. A journal lay open on the desk. "Read it," Kieran said. "Understand what you're inheriting." Elara picked up the journal with trembling hands and read her great-aunt's careful script. "The children are more than they know. Each bloodline carefully selected, each child a perfect blend of ancient power. Together, they could form the strongest pack in generations. But Thorne knows this. He will never stop hunting them. My only hope is that my heir will be strong enough to do what I could not awaken their true potential before it's too late." "She gathered us," Kieran said quietly. "Rescued us from different packs, different tragedies. But we were never random orphans. We're the last of pure bloodlines, Luna-touched, shadow walkers, stormbringers, powers that were supposed to die out, preserved in children too young to understand their gifts. Intention is save, and Blackwood wants to bind us to his pack, corrupt our gifts for his own use." Kieran's young face hardened. "He's done it before, turned gifted cubs into weapons. We won't let him do it to the little ones." Elara set down the journal, mind reeling. 8 children carrying ancient bloodlines, a corrupt alpha hunting them, and her untrained, untested standing between them. "There's more," Kieran said. He pulled out a leather tube and extracted a scroll. "Celestine's final message. She said to give it to her heir only if they stayed past the first week." Elara unrolled the parchment, recognizing her aunt's handwriting. "My dear child, if you're reading this, then you've chosen to stay. The blood runs true. You are the Moonkeeper, the ancient alpha line thought extinct. Your presence will awaken not just the cub's gifts, but the very bones of Silvermoon Manor. The estate's defenses will recognize you, but only if you embrace what you are. Stop fighting the wolf inside. Let her run free, and she will show you how to save them all. The new moon comes, be ready. All my love, Celestine." "Moonkeeper?" Elara whispered. The rarest bloodline, Jaxon said from the doorway. Alphas, who could command the moon itself, strengthen or weaken other wolves' connections to their power. If it's true, quote, then I'm not just their guardian, Elara finished. I'm their only chance at survival. That night, Elara dreamed of silver light and ancient voices. She woke to find luminous script glowing on her bedroom walls, the same symbols she'd seen carved into the boundary trees. But these were alive, pulsing with inner fire. She followed the symbols down hallways she'd never explored, through passages that shouldn't exist, until she reached a door hidden behind a tapestry, depicting wolves dancing beneath a full moon. The door opened at her touch, revealing stairs that spiraled down into darkness. At the bottom, she found a chamber that took her breath away. The walls were covered in murals depicting the history of her bloodline, moonkeepers standing as guardians between the human and wolf worlds, maintaining balance, protecting the innocent. But it was the center of the room that drew her forward. A pool of water that reflected not the ceiling, but the night sky as it would appear on the coming new moon. And in that reflection, she saw visions that chilled her soul. Blackwood's pack, gathered at the forest edge. The wards around Silvermoon flickering, failing. The children fighting desperately against grown wolves. Blood on snow. Small bodies that didn't rise again. No, she whispered. But the vision continued. She saw herself, standing amid the carnage, eyes dead and collar-bound. Blackwood's mark burned into her throat. The surviving cubs chained behind her, their spirits broken, their gifts corrupted into tools of violence. This is what happens if you fail. Elara spun to find a ghostly figure behind her. Celestine, translucent and shimmering. Aunt Celestine? An echo, the spirit corrected. A message tied to your bloodline awakening. I'm sorry, child. I'm sorry for the burden I've left you. But you're stronger than you know. I don't know how to fight a whole pack. I've never even shifted. Then it's time you learned. Celestine's ghost gestured to the murals. Your blood remembers. Even if your mind doesn't, trust the wolf. Trust the children. And whatever you do, don't trust. The spirit flickered and vanished as footsteps echoed down the stairs. Jaxon appeared, his gold eyes wide with concern. Elara? I felt. The house was calling. The old magics are stirring. She turned back to the reflecting pool, but now it showed only water. Jaxon, what aren't you telling me? Celestine tried to warn me about something, someone I shouldn't trust. His face shuddered. There are things about that night, the night she died, that don't make sense. The wards should have held. Someone had to have weakened them from the inside. You think there's a traitor? Among the children? Not the children. He moved closer, and Elara caught his scent, wilder now, tinged with worry. Come. But there are others who know about Silvermoon, others who've been here. We're not as isolated as we seem. Before Elara could ask more, a howl split the night, not from outside, but from somewhere in the mansion. Young, pained, terrified. Luna! They said in unison, racing back up the stairs. They found chaos. Luna writhed on the kitchen floor, her body caught between forms, partially shifted, but unable to complete the transformation. Her siblings surrounded her, panic in their young faces. She just collapsed, Vera reported, trying to hold Luna still. One moment she was fine, then she screamed about voices in her head and started shifting. But this wasn't like Ash's gentle fever. Luna's body contorted painfully, bones breaking and reshaping wrong. Her eyes had gone solid, silver, unseeing, and words in an ancient language spilled from her lips. Quote, "She's being called," Jaxon said grimly. Forced summoning. Blackwood's found a way past the outer wards. How do we stop it? Elara demanded. We can't. Once a forced summoning starts, she'll either complete it and go to him, or... He didn't finish, but they all understood. She'd die in agony, torn between loyalties. No. Elara knelt beside Luna, placing her hands on the girl's burning skin. There has to be another way. The moment she made contact, power surged through her raw, primal, overwhelming. She saw through Luna's eyes, Blackwood standing at a ritual circle, pulling on threads of power that connected him to every wolf-blooded child for miles. But Luna was fighting, her young will surprisingly strong. That's it, Elara breathed. She's fighting. We can help her fight. How? Kieran demanded. Elara looked up at him, at all of them, feeling something ancient and powerful stirring in her chest. Form a circle, everyone touching. We're pack, even if it's not official. That means something. The children obeyed without question, even little Ash toddling over to place his small hand on Luna's ankle. Jaxon hesitated, then knelt beside Elara, his hand covering hers on Luna's shoulder. Together, Elara said, and let instinct guide her. Power flowed through their connected circle, not her power alone, but all of theirs, amplified and focused by their chosen bonds. Luna's tortured shifting slowed, stabilized. The ancient words faded from her lips. But Elara felt the moment Blackwood noticed their interference. His consciousness slammed into hers across the magical connection, and she saw his face clearly for the first time, scarred, cruel, with eyes like chips of ice. So, the Moonkeeper lives. How delightful! Don't worry, little guardian. I'll take excellent care of you once these cubs are properly broken. Never. Elara snarled back through the connection. You have until the new moon, 4 days. Then I come for what's mine, and not even ancient blood will save you. The connection snapped. Luna gasped, her body finally settling into human form. She was unconscious but breathing, the forced shift broken. Everyone okay? Elara asked, though she could feel the drain on all of them. That was amazing, Ash whispered. You saved her. We saved her, Elara corrected. Together. But as she met Jaxon's eyes over the children's heads, she saw he understood the true cost. Blackwood now knew exactly who she was, what she was. And he'd be coming with everything he had. 4 days to turn 8 traumatized children, and 1 untrained Moonkeeper, into a force that could stand against a corrupt Alpha and his entire pack. The next morning brought an unexpected visitor. Elara was teaching the twins basic defensive stances in the mansion's ballroom when Kieran burst in. Car coming up the drive, expensive, official plates. Elara's blood chilled. Had Blackwood sent legal representatives? But the woman who stepped out of the black sedan wasn't what Elara expected. Middle-aged, elegant, with silver-streaked auburn hair and a designer suit that probably cost more than most people's cars. She moved with the fluid grace of an apex predator playing at being prey. Miss Nightshade, the woman called out. I'm Counselor Lydia Winters from the Regional Supernatural Authority. We need to talk. Jaxon materialized at Elara's shoulder. I know her. She's legitimate, but she's also Blackwood's cousin. Elara met Counselor Winters in the formal parlor. The woman settled onto an antique settee, as if she owned it, sharp eyes taking in every detail. I'll be direct, Winters began. You're harboring runaways. Pack law is clear cubs belong with their rightful alpha. Their rightful alpha is dead, Elara said flatly. These children were under Celestine's protection, and now they're under mine. Celestine wasn't Pack. Neither are you, despite your interesting bloodline. Winters smiled, cold and calculating. Alpha Blackwood has prior claim. Several of these cubs were born into packs that owed him allegiance. By law, children who've been abused can seek sanctuary. Elara interrupted. And I have proof of Blackwood's treatment of cubs in his care. Proof that would need to be presented to a full council tribunal. Such things take time. Months, perhaps years. Winters examined her manicured nails. By then, well, cubs grow up so fast, don't they? The threat was clear. Legal channels would be too slow to save them. Quote, "What do you want?" Elara asked. "I want what's best for everyone. You're new to our world, Miss Nightshade. Alpha Blackwood is powerful, connected. Opposing him openly would cause disruptions. So you want me to hand over 8 children to save your political career? I want you to consider a compromise." Winters pulled out an envelope. "Sign guardianship over to me. I'll ensure the children are placed in appropriate homes. Separated. Of course, keeping them together would be too dangerous. But alive." Separated? Elara's voice was deadly quiet. "It's for their own good. Together, they're too powerful, too tempting, a target." "No deal," Elara said firmly. "She's not alone." Kieran stood in the doorway, the other children behind him. "We won't be separated. Not again." Winter's expression hardened. Children should learn when to be silent. And adults should learn when they've lost. Kieran moved into the room, and Elara saw Winters actually flinch at the power rolling off the teenage boy. Winters stood, smoothing her skirt. "You've killed them all with your pride. The offer stands until moonrise tomorrow. After that, I wash my hands of this mess." As her car disappeared down the drive, Ash tugged on Elara's hand. "We won't really have to separate, will we?" "Never," Elara promised. "Your pack stays together." "Then we need to get ready," Jaxon said grimly. "Because Winters just confirmed what I suspected. Blackwood's coming in force, and he's got council backing. We're on our own." That night, Elara made a decision that would change everything. She gathered everyone in the chamber she'd discovered, the sacred room of her bloodline. The reflecting pool showed the approaching new moon, now only 2 nights away. "I need to shift," she announced. "Fully, tonight." "Elara, no," Jaxon immediately protested. "First shifts are dangerous without proper preparation." Quote, "You could lose yourself to the wolf, never find your way back to human form." 12 Siomaras, 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 2025. "Then you'll anchor me." She met his golden eyes steadily. "All of you will. We're pack, even if it's not official." "That means something." "The children," he started. "Need to see that it's not something to fear," Elara interrupted. "They need to see the beauty in what they are." Kieran stepped forward. "I'll go first. If we're doing this, you need to see what you're becoming." Before anyone could object, he began to shift. Elara watched in awe as his human form rippled and changed, bones reshaping, thick midnight fur sprouting. Where a teenager had stood, now sat a massive black wolf with intelligent silver eyes. One by one, the other children followed. Not all could manage full shifts. Some only achieved partial transformations, but each showed their true nature without shame. Luna became a snow-white wolf pup. The twins shifted into matching copper-colored wolves. Even little Ash managed to sprout fuzzy white ears and a tail. "Your turn," Jaxon said softly. He hadn't shifted, staying human to guide her. "Close your eyes. Feel the moon's pull, even though it's new. She's always there, waiting." Elara breathed deep, releasing the mental walls she'd built over a lifetime. The wolf inside, patient and powerful, surged forward. Pain lanced through her as her body began to change, but underneath was something else: rightness. "Coming home. That's it," Jaxon murmured. "Let her free. Trust her. Trust us." The shift hit like a tide. One moment Elara was human, the next she stood on 4 legs, her senses exploded into supernatural clarity. She could smell each pack member's unique scent, hear their heartbeats, feel their emotions through bonds that sang between them. Her fur was silver, shot through with threads of pure white that seemed to glow with inner light. When she looked in the pool, amber eyes stared back her mother's eyes, Celestine's eyes, the eyes of generations of moonkeepers. Beautiful. Jaxon's voice in her mind. Pack telepathy natural as breathing. Absolutely beautiful. The cubs crowded around her, yipping and playing, showing her their wolf games. For precious moments, they were just what they appeared. A family running and playing together, free from fear. But as dawn approached, Elara felt something shift in the manor's defenses. The wards shuddered, strengthened by her transformation but also changing, adapting. She shifted back, gasping as human form reclaimed her. Jaxon steadied her, his hands warm and solid, protected. "The wards," she said. "They recognized me. But there's something wrong. A weakness I can't quite." A howl interrupted her. Not playful like the cubs, but threatening. Adult. Close, too close. "Scout," Jaxon identified grimly. "Testing our defenses." But Elara felt something else through her newfound connection to Silvermoon. The scout wasn't testing from outside. The call had come from within the grounds. "We have a problem," she said, ice in her veins. "Someone's already inside." They found the traitor in the last place, Elara expected, standing over Ash's bed, silver blade glinting in the moonlight. Counselor Winters. Her elegant facade discarded, revealed for the predator she truly was. "No!" Elara lunged, but Winters moved with inhuman speed, pressing the blade to Ash's throat. The little boy whimpered but stayed still, tears tracking down his pale cheeks. "Nobody move," Winters commanded. "Or the pup dies." "Lydia." Jackson's voice was pure controlled fury. "Let him go. Your quarrel is with us, not the children." "My quarrel?" She laughed, high and cold. "You still don't understand, do you? This was never about pack law or politics. It's about power. These cubs, properly bound and controlled, could make their master unstoppable." "Blackwood's your puppet," Elara realized. "You're not his cousin, you're his creature. His mate, actually." Winter's smile was sharp. "Amazing what people will believe with the right glamour and forged credentials. We've been planning this for years. Celestine was just the beginning. You killed her." The words tasted like ash in Elara's mouth. "Poisoned the wards from inside. Let Thorne's wolves through." She fought harder than expected. Winters pressed the blade closer to Ash's skin, drawing a bead of blood. "But even moonkeepers die when overwhelmed." "What do you want?" Elara forced her voice steady. "Simple. You're going to lower the wards, all of them. Let Thorne in peacefully, and I'll make sure the cub's binding is gentle. Fight. And I start with the youngest and work my way up." The other children had crept closer, surrounding them. Elara felt their terror, their rage, their desperate need for her to save their littlest member. But she also felt something else, their trust, their absolute faith that she would find a way. "I'll make a counter-offer," Elara said. "Let Ash go, and I'll come willingly." The Moonkeeper bloodline is what Blackwood really wants, isn't it? The power to control any wolf, strengthen or break any bond. "Take me. Leave them." "No!" Multiple voices cried out, but Elara held up her hand. "Interesting," Winters mused. "But why settle for one prize when I can have all?" That's when Elara felt it. The children moving in perfect synchronization, not physically, but magically. They'd learned from saving Luna, pack bonds amplified power, and their power was considerable. "Trust us," Kieran's voice in her mind. "When we move, be ready." "Choose quickly," Winters said. "My patience." The cubs struck as one. Not at Winters, she'd expect that, but at the mansion itself. Every ward, every protection, every magical defense roared to life at once. Power drawn from 8 bloodlines acting in perfect unity. The backlash hit Winters like a sledgehammer, sending her flying back from Ash. Elara moved faster than thought, snatching Ash to safety as Jaxon engaged Winters in a vicious battle. But even as they fought, Elara felt the cost. The children were burning through their reserves, years of suppressed power spent in seconds. "Stop," she commanded. "You'll kill yourselves." Better than letting her win, Vera gasped, silver patterns spidering across her skin. No. Elara made her choice. Nobody dies tonight except monsters. She reached deep, finding the core of her Moonkeeper power. Not to control, but to share. She opened herself completely, becoming a conduit. The cub's excess power flowed through her, and she shaped it, directed it, turned it into something beautiful and terrible. Winter screamed as silver light engulfed her, not destroying worse, stripping away every binding she'd ever made, every compulsion she'd cast, every life she'd stolen power from. All of it came due at once. When the light faded, only dust remained. But the effort cost everything. Elara collapsed, her body burning out from channeling so much raw power. She'd saved them, but the price. Elara. Jaxon caught her as she fell. No, stay with me. Stay with us. She smiled weakly, touching his face. Keep them safe. Promise me. Promise yourself, he growled. You're not dying. I won't let you. Around them, the children gathered. 8 cubs who'd learned the price of freedom, the cost of love, and they weren't willing to pay it. Together, Kieran said firmly, like she taught us. Pack shares everything, joy, pain, life, everything. What happened next would become legend in the supernatural world. 8 children, bound by choice rather than magic, offered pieces of their own life force to save the woman who'd saved them. Not taking giving. Not forced. Freely chosen. Elara felt it like dawn breaking in her chest. Their power, young and pure and freely given, didn't burn like before. It healed, strengthened, transformed. The Moonkeeper bloodline, dormant for so long, blazed to full life. When she opened her eyes, the world had changed. She could see the threads connecting all living things, feel the heartbeat of the mountain itself. But most clearly, she felt them, her pack, her children, her family. That was incredibly stupid, she told them, voice hoarse. And incredibly brave. We learned from the best, Luna said, tears streaming down her face. A howl split the night, multiple howls. Blackwood had arrived with his full pack, sensing the disruption in the wards. But something had changed there too. The defenses, Jaxon said in wonder. They're not just restored, they're alive. He was right. Silvermoon Manor itself had awakened, fed by the pure pack bond formed in sacrifice and love. The very stones hummed with protective power. The forest bent toward them, ready to defend. The mountain offered its strength. Let him come, Elara said, standing with new grace and power. We're ready. But when Blackwood appeared at the gates, he came alone. The massive alpha, scarred and brutal, stood outside the renewed wards with something like fear in his cold eyes. Impossible, he snarled. The Moonkeeper line is dead. You're just a pretender, a fake. Elara walked through the wards like they were mist. They recognized her now, absolutely. Test me, she said simply. He attacked with the speed of an alpha in his prime. But Elara moved like moonlight, like shadow, there and not there. When she finally stood still and let him close, it was only to place one hand on his chest. Kneel, she commanded, and the Moonkeeper power rang in her voice like bells, Blackwood's. Knees hit the ground against his will, eyes wide with shock. An alpha, forced to kneel by the ancient authority of her bloodline. You have tormented your last child, Elara said quietly. By the old laws, I challenge your claim to pack leadership. By the older laws, I name you Oathbreaker and Cub Killer. Face me in single combat, or forfeit all rank and standing in the supernatural world. You can't. I am the Moonkeeper of the Northern Territories. Elara's voice carried to every wolf for miles. I speak with the voice of the first mothers, the guardian bloodline. Who will witness? I will. Jaxon stepped through the wards, followed by the 8 cubs. We all will, Blackwood. Looked at them, really looked. 8 children standing tall despite their youth. A beta who'd chosen conscience over pack. And a woman whose silver hair now held threads of pure starlight, whose amber eyes held the weight of ancient authority. "I forfeit," he whispered. Then louder, formally, "I forfeit all claim and challenge. I submit to the Moonkeeper's justice." "Then justice you'll have." Elara's power wrapped around him, not painful but implacable. "Every binding you forced on others is now upon you. Every compulsion you've used returns threefold. Harm another cub, and the mountain itself will swallow you. This is the Moonkeeper's judgment." Blackwood fled, diminished and broken. His pack, freed from his compulsions, scattered to the winds. Some would find new packs. Others would seek redemption. But none would threaten Silvermoon again. "It's over," Ash whispered. "It's really over?" "The immediate threat," Elara corrected gently. "But our work is just beginning." 1 year later, Silvermoon Manor stood transformed. Gone were the boarded windows and defensive fortifications. In their place, gardens bloomed, and children's laughter echoed across the grounds. The estate had become what Celestine always dreamed, a true sanctuary. "Careful with that," Vera called out, watching 2 new cubs practice their shifting in the training yard. "Remember, control before power." At 15, she'd grown into her role as senior student, helping teach the younger ones. All the original 8 had found their places, Kieran as Elara's second, Luna as the pack's emotional heart, the twins as scouts and messengers, Ash as everyone's little brother and moral compass. Elara stood on the renovated balcony, watching over it all. 23 cubs now called Silvermoon home. Some stayed permanently, others came to learn control and confidence before returning to their birth packs. All were welcome. Lost in thought? Jaxon's arms wrapped around her from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. "Grateful thoughts," she corrected, leaning into his warmth. Their mating ceremony 6 months ago had been a joyous chaos of cubs trying to help organize while sneaking extra cake. "A year ago, I was a social worker who didn't even know she could shift. Now you're the Moonkeeper, Alpha of Silvermoon, and mother to a small army of supernatural children," Jaxon finished. "Having second thoughts?" She turned in his arms, meeting those gold eyes that still made her heart race. "Never, although," she placed his hand on her still flat stomach, "you might want to start building that addition to the nursery wing." His eyes widened. "You're about 6 weeks along." She grinned at his stunned expression. "Surprise?" He kissed her thoroughly, only breaking apart when wolf whistles and giggles erupted from below. The cubs had noticed and were cheering. "A baby!" Ash shrieked in delight. "We're getting a baby!" "As if 23 kids wasn't enough chaos," Kieran said, but he was grinning too. That evening, they held their traditional family dinner. The massive dining table groaned under the weight of food, conversation flowing as freely as laughter. Cubs, from a dozen different bloodlines, bound not by magic but by choice, had become a true pack. "Story time," the youngest cubs chanted after dessert. Elara settled into her favorite chair by the fireplace, children arranging themselves around her feet. Even the teenagers lingered, pretending they were too old for stories but listening just as intently. "What story tonight?" she asked. "Tell us about the first time you shifted," Luna requested. "About finding your wolf." "Tell us about beating Blackwood," one of the newer cubs suggested. "No," Ash said firmly. "Tell us about coming home. About the day you knocked on our door and everything changed." Elara smiled, pulling him into her lap. Through the windows, she could see the full moon rising over their mountain, bathing everything in silver light. Somewhere in the forest, she knew other lost cubs were making their way to them, drawn by hope and the promise of sanctuary. "Once upon a time," she began, "a woman who didn't know she was a wolf, inherited a house full of children who didn't know they could be loved. As she told their true story, Elara felt Celestine's approving presence, like a gentle hand on her shoulder. The Moonkeeper bloodline lived on, not as rulers or controllers, but as protectors and guides. Silvermoon Manor had become what it was always meant to be. A home where broken children learned to be whole, where chosen family mattered more than blood, where love was the strongest magic of all. And in the nursery they'd soon expand. New life grew, the next generation of cubs who would never know a world without sanctuary, without pack, without love. The legacy continued, one saved child at a time. Outside, the moon smiled down on them all, full and bright and everlasting as hope itself.